You know, every once in a while I think about playing something different other than a superhero game. Sometimes I just don't know what to play next and just decide to do something completely different just for the hell of it. I know my name kind of tells you what my content is focused on, and that is true, but I think it'll be nice to veer away for a moment and appreciate something else for a change. I know I didn't really give the best introduction to this playlist, but you know what? We're changing that now. And to celebrate, I thought I'd talk about my favorite game in the most recognizable franchise of all time, Mario.
Ah, Jumpman. Even after 35 years, English isn't your strong suit. I would go in depth about the series, but I'd just rather talk about a little game from 2006 known as New Super Mario Bros. Originally conceived as another installment in the Super Mario Advance series, it would be changed into being its own concept following the release of the DS back in 2004. It was also the first original 2D Mario game in over 14 years, with the last one being Mario Land 2: The Six Golden Coins. Since then it was mostly ports and remakes like Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for the Game Boy Color and the aforementioned Advance series. Also, another reason why it took so long was because gaming had shifted to 3D, so if you want to blame Super Mario 64 for something, you can. On May 15, 2006, New Super Mario Bros. Was released to commercial and critical success, becoming one of the top-selling games for the Nintendo DS. I remember getting this game along with my first DS as a Christmas gift back in 2007, and despite the fact we were heading home to Nova Scotia to visit family, I took the game with me, and if I wasn't hanging out with everybody, I was playing Mario. Now, I don't have a way of recording off an actual DS, so we're going to cheat a bit and look at the 2015 re-release for the Wii U Virtual Console.
So with all that, let's warp to the Mushroom Kingdom and talk about the story.
So, what's the plot here? Yeah, that's it. Okay, sure, the bad guy is Bowser Jr. this time around, but besides that, it's the same standard plot scene in every other Mario game, so there's nothing really to go over. I mean, while Mario and Peach are on a stroll, the castle gets attacked by a cloud. That's worth bringing up, right?
Anyway, time to talk about gameplay.
Speaking of standard, gameplay is pretty much what you've come to expect from a Mario game with the usual running and jumping. One new thing for the time with gameplay is the addition of some techniques taken from 3D Mario like the wall jump, ground pound, and triple jump respectively. These honestly feel really natural in a 2D setting and add some unique scenarios for platforming and level design. With this being on the DS, it's gotta take advantage of the two screens, so while the top screen has all the action going, the bottom screen is relegated to level progression and a spare power-up to use, which is similar to Super Mario World. I don't mind this since the meter can be useful for later levels, and having a backup item is always great for certain situations. Speaking of which, we have a nice blend of power-ups for this game. You have the usual Mushroom, Fire Flower, and Starman, but as for new additions, we have 3. First up is the Mega Mushroom, which despite being on the cover of the box, is only used a few times, which I could probably count out on one hand. Don't get me wrong, it is incredibly fun smashing through obstacles, I just wish there was more of it, especially if you're going to put it on the box of the fucking game. Next we have the Mini Mushroom, which I actually enjoy quite a bit. I love jumping massive distances and getting into areas you normally can't access as normal Mario. Does it suck that you die in one hit? Yes, but killing enemies and bosses with the ground pound is immensely satisfying in tiny form. Lastly is the Blue Shell, which is a power-up I enjoy using despite its mixed reception. I love the added protection when crouching, and I always get a kick of speeding through levels with it. I can definitely see why people don't like it, and in some moments it doesn't always work in my favor. So all this amounts to gameplay which, despite being standard fare, actually feels really good and a blast to control.
But enough of that shit, let's move on to everything else.
Like most 2D Mario games, you have 8 worlds to travel through, including the grass theme, the desert theme, the beach theme, the snow theme, the mountain theme, and the lava theme. There's 2 bonus ones that can only be accessed by beating certain bosses with the Mini Mushroom or finding certain candidates to shoot from, with those being the jungle and sky themed worlds. Not really much to say about the themes themselves, but I did find it interesting to learn that the mountain and jungle themes were actually new additions to the franchise at that point. Within the levels are 3 star coins, which besides being a bragging right for collecting them all, they also have another purpose to serve. With the coins you can use them to open new levels, but also open toad houses that contain power-ups, 1-ups, and mega mushrooms that are basically useless. You can also use them to buy backgrounds for the bottom screen after beating the game, which... neat? These I would say are better utilized in the later games, but are a nice distraction nonetheless. In some levels there are secret exits like in Super Mario World, and just like in that game they unlock alternate paths, levels, and cannons which you can take to other worlds. The thing that sucks is that you can't see which levels have secret exits, unlike Super Mario World, which made that distinction clear. Besides the usual jobbers like Goombas and Koopa Troopas, there's a whole list of new and unique enemies, with my favorite being the Sock'em Boppers. Or Bruisers as they're actually called. It doesn't matter. Bosses are, well, the main ones are good, but the mini-bosses? Yep. Instead of having Bowser in each castle, they decided to have power-up versions of normal enemies except one of them, which is Petey Piranha from Super Mario Sunshine. Not only is this a nice change of pace, but the bosses are actually pretty fun. You do fight Bowser in the first castle, and this is where you murder him.
Holy fuck! That was diabolical!
Graphics are still really good for a DS game, and comparing it to the rest of the series, this game definitely stands out more with 3D models on a 2D background. Since I played this game on a TV, it's kind of a different story because the pixels were blown out of proportion, so I would keep this in mind if you decide to purchase this game on the Wii U. Assuming you still have one. I absolutely love just about every piece of music that's in this game. From the world music to the pieces playing in the levels themselves. Hell, I even love the game over music, which is literally 5 seconds long.
So now it's time to talk about the multiplayer, and since it's basically impossible to play it with the Wii U version, we're going to have to go guerrilla style in terms of filming.
So, for the 2-player versus mode, it involves you taking control of either Mario or Luigi, with each player trying to collect a certain amount of stars. It's a lot of fun and has led to hours of enjoyment among me and my siblings. When it actually finishes loading up, that's the only drag about this mode, but everything else is good. Now onto the minigames, which most of them are ripped right from Super Mario 64 DS, but are still really enjoyable nonetheless. I can't tell you how much time I spent just on Luigi Poker alone. Speaking of Luigi, you can actually play as him in the main game with a code they show you at the end of the credits. He plays identically to Mario, but it adds some fun to revisits.
So what are my final thoughts? Well, I think the game still holds up really nice in my eyes, honestly.
For all accounts, New Super Mario Bros. Doesn't really bring anything new to the formula, but for what it does bring, it delivers really well, and results in a really fun game that'll leave you satisfied. Despite being really short and way too easy, it has a fair share of replayability with things like the star coins, extra worlds, minigames, multiplayer, and it feels great to control. There's a reason it's the best-selling DS game of all time, with over 30 million copies sold. Not to mention, it started a sub-series which, despite having problems and feeling a bit uninspired, I still have my fun with each of them in their own right. Even though there are better Mario games out there to play, I'd still recommend a playthrough at the end of the day. If you happen to find a copy somehow, I'd say go for it. You might be in for a pleasant experience.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. I think it's kind of nice to break away from the cape stuff every once in a while. And not sure what I'm going to be covering next, but I'd like to do these every once in a while. I'll sprinkle them during the main reviews, talking about things that mean a lot to me. And maybe some things that don't. Anyway, I'll see you all next time. Thank you all so much for watching, and take care of yourselves.